I just realized that the last time I was presenting in this room, I was defending my master's capstone, so it's good to be back. Good morning, everyone. How we do this? I'm Mara Brophy. I'm the president of the NoMa bid. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces, great to see some new folks as well. I'm going to talk briefly about a couple of things that NoMa has been doing since the onset of the pandemic. Thank you. And I want to start by giving a little bit of context. I'm not going to do a deep dive into our core services. They're similar to what Joe described, but there are two important things to know about NoMa. Just for a show of hands, who knows the neighborhood, who's been there in the last 6 months? Okay, so pretty familiar. But the two really important things is that NoMa is growing and NoMa is critically mixed use. And I will show a couple of slides that really drive that point home. This is an aerial view of the neighborhood and shows the growth since the year 2000. That's a 2021 on the end there. This visual to me just is so outstanding in terms of what it demonstrates. NoMa was in the year 2000, a rail adjacent neighborhood with a lot of vacant lots. It started to grow tremendously after the neighborhood was upzoned, after a temporary tax abatement, and after the development of the infill metro station that brought us to NoMa Gallaudet Station. And what we see today is a neighborhood that has grown tremendously and is still growing. I couldn't tell you the exact crane count as of today, but it hovers somewhere between 8 and 14 on any given week, given what's going on in the neighborhood. So that's important to know. I also want to mention that this neighborhood is, like I said, critically mixed use. The different colors you see here represents that. We have a lot of commercial, meaning office buildings. We have residential buildings. We have hotel rooms. And we have, like I said, a lot of stuff that is still planned to come. What this means is that there are people in the neighborhood, and that's very important when it comes to the things that we're talking about today, placemaking activity in neighborhoods. My office vacancy is still in the single digits, which I think means that NoMa is outperforming every submarket in DC. That said, just because my numbers are low, those vacancy numbers are low, it does not mean that there are people in those offices. So my ped count, my pedestrian count still has not recovered the way that Joe's has, for instance, because I'm still missing a portion of the 50,000 office workers that were coming to the neighborhood pre-pandemic. Lastly, again, just showing the amount of growth here, focus on those blue numbers. This is the amount of development that we expect to see come to the neighborhood by 2030. Again, represents, actually, I'd say that what's interesting is that with the notable exception of the SEC relocating its headquarters to NoMa, I have no office planned in the pipeline. So everything has really shifted to multifamily and hotel uses. I've had a net gain of retail businesses open since the onset of the pandemic. I think that this neighborhood is really proving the hypothesis that mixed use neighborhoods, the mixture of uses is critical, and that mixed use neighborhoods will be the immediate post-pandemic neighborhoods of choice. So with that in mind, and apologies for the wonky formatting here, but here are a few things that the bid is doing to make it happen here and now. I'm going to talk a little bit about building parks, activating parks and other assets in the public realm, strengthening the local business community, and doing this all with purpose, meaning that this is all done to not only make this neighborhood a place where people want to be, but implicit to a lot of the things that we're talking about today is the fact that we're trying to bring people here to spend money. We're trying to bring people here not just for the physical activity and the way in which that enriches the neighborhood, but also so that local businesses can benefit from that, so that the local economy can benefit from that. And wherever we can find ways to really make sure that that activity is mutually reinforcing of the business activity, we try to be very intentional in making that happen. So this is Alethia Tanner Park. I want to pause for a minute to acknowledge UVA's involvement in the fact that this park exists in NoMa. This park is one of a handful of parks that was brought to the neighborhood by the NoMa Parks Foundation, which is an affiliated entity of the NoMa bid. And the foundation is a tremendous success story when it comes to proving the value of public-private partnerships in doing many things, but including delivering and maintaining public space. This park, as well as the other Parks Foundation projects, was made possible through a grant from the city, which provided the foundation the resources to go out and essentially be a project delivery entity. So this park was delivered in the spring of 2020. So not exactly well-timed when it comes to our wanting to really celebrate the opening through a big event, But more importantly, incredibly well-timed when it came to the fact that it brought new public space to the neighborhood at a critical time where we were looking for opportunities for people to safely gather outside. The BID's role now is to program this park, and we do that in a number of ways. Our events bring about 20,000 people to the neighborhood annually. Most of those events are in the park. Just last night, we hosted our annual fall event, Pumpkin Palooza. We had about 2,500 people in the park. We had a toddler show up dressed as NoMa's iconic water tower, so that really made my evening. So it's fun, and we do movie series in the spring and fall. You can see that the lawn is completely packed. And again, when we're doing stuff like this, we are trying to be intentional about making sure people know how close we are to Red Bear Brewery so that they can grab a drink before they come, or pick up a pizza at Andy's Pizza or a sandwich at Union Kitchen. To make sure that as we're hosting these activities, not only are these people enjoying the evening and benefiting from the outdoor space and the programming, but the local business community is benefiting as well. This was an initiative that we began last year into this year. So in May of this year, we launched the Metropolitan Beer Trail. The park that I just showed is right along the Metropolitan Branch Trail, which is an urban trail that goes from NoMa on the southern end, will go up to Silver Spring on the northern end. And in the areas proximate to NoMa, there are 7 bars and breweries right on the trail. So the BID worked with those organizations and businesses to launch the beer trail. We invested in a passport program that allowed people to sign up and access different benefits and discounts that the bars were making available. And this was, again, really intentional in terms of bringing people to the neighborhood to activate it, but also to support local businesses and the local business community. This slide here shows you roughly what we've seen just since the passport was opened in May. I'll call attention to the fact that 39 people from 39 different states and 3 different countries have participated in the trail. So really kind of proves the magnetic force of things like this and the importance of doing things that are intentionally bringing people to the community. What this tells us is that this trail is not something that just the immediate community is benefiting from, but something that people from different parts of the region and different parts of the world are benefiting from, and really putting NoMa on the map in that way. Last thing I'll mention is that we began bringing the business community together through business socials. And this was something that we probably started maybe about a year ago, if not a little bit more. When I first came to the BID in February 2021, so very much middle of pandemic, I safely met with business owners and tried to gauge kind of what they needed most from the BID. And one thing that I heard overwhelmingly was that there was an interest in strengthening ties among other businesses in the area. So we started hosting these socials. We very lightly program them. We might bring in DSLBD or other partners to talk about grant programs or things that might benefit the community. But the real benefit is just them getting to spend time with each other and being able to do that regularly so that they can build relationships. What we've seen come out of these events is everything from, like, how's your permitting process going, or how's your build out going, to there's a local print shop in the neighborhood. And so now everyone's using that print shop to do all of their printing stuff. So it's great to see the businesses really leaning on each other, strengthening those relationships. And this is honestly, I know we're here talking about innovation, but this is a really simple thing we do. I mean, this is something that we send an email, we get some coffee, we find a venue, people in the neighborhood love to host, and we just bring people together. So really relatively low lift, but high impact thing that we do that's really bolstering the local community. So thank you. And I'll close with something that's similar to what Colleen said, with a quick anecdote about our events and neighborhood activations. We hosted a Mardi Gras event last spring, where we brought in music and we brought in a little float. We gave out favors to the community, did it in partnership with a local restaurant. And this was like an 1.5 hour long event that we held on Tuesday night. And my favorite part of the evening was observing the crowd. And as I did that, I noticed that there was a guy who was standing, listening to the music, just having a great time, loving the whole thing. And at his feet were 2 bags of groceries. So he didn't come out, like he didn't see on Twitter, on Instagram that this event was happening and he came out. He went out to buy groceries and he stumbled upon this Mardi Gras activity. And I looked at him and I realized that right there is why people love cities. That is why people want to be in cities. It's that thing that you stumble upon that you don't expect to stumble upon. And the fact that place management organizations are doing things like that, and that Colleen's described the same thing, gives me a lot of reason to be optimistic. The fact that there are, the work that I'm doing, but also the work that all my counterparts are doing, times all the work that's being done by other place management entities throughout the world. I think it does and should give us a lot of reason to be optimistic. And also, I think speaks volumes about the importance of these organizations. So thank you for having me. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Maura. That's great. Thank you so much. Tracy, thank you so much for being with us